Welcome back to another exciting podcast on Algoma U Radio, The Aura. It is February 12th, 2014. My name is John Natali.
And my name is Caleb Smichael, and we are your hosts, bringing you the matters that matter to you. This is your voice, your music, and your aura.
So, we have a very special podcast for you today. We finally have the president back on our show.
El Presidente.
Great to be here.
So we just want to thank you for coming back on our show. It's
We got
pleasure to have you.
Some great questions lined up for you today.
Great, that's what I wanted to hear.
This time we're not pulling you from your washroom break, right? we're getting you fresh.
Scheduled appointment.
It's a scheduled appointment, and we're excited to have you here.
All right, so we're going to go right into it. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to go right into our first question. So our first question is from Corey, and will the school demand a marking rubric of teachers to get rid of subjectivity? So I think what that's referring to is if tests don't have multiple choice or whatever, if there's like a short answer question, is there going to be something for the teachers to have more strict on how they have to mark those short answer so that it's not up to the teacher basically, whether or not, maybe not short answer, but like more essay, maybe like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like up in the air, like up to the teacher's discretion. Will that ever be a thing? Is that
I don't think that would ever be a thing at any university. The sort of bedrock principle of university instruction is the principle of academic freedom, which is that the instructors are supposed to be able to organize the instruction and the assessment in accordance with what they think is best for the learning process. And I think it's in the nature of many of the subjects you study at a university that there's always going to be some subjectivity involved. I can't imagine one would ever eliminate that from the learning process. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I guess I would say off the top of my head, I think it would be a pretty shallow education if it dealt only with things that didn't have any subjective content to them. So certainly the university has no plans to eliminate that. I don't know of any university that is planning to eliminate it.
Okay. Kill, you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure do. This one is going to be a tough one.
Well, the last one was pretty interesting. You've never asked me that before, so good job.
Okay. This one's regarding sports. And this is from a student going by the initials of AP. And I've actually mixed three questions together because they all are kind of along the same lines.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so the first part of this question is this. Why is there such a large focus and money put into the basketball teams while other varsity sports struggle? Now, they asked this, and I'm going to go into the next question, and this is sent to us by Nick, is that he went to the games on the weekend, and he noticed that the girls' team, they have pink jerseys, they have pink practice jerseys, they got a pink ball. Like it seemed like they were getting a lot of stuff when, for example, this Nick is from the soccer team. He hasn't gotten they don't get like practice jerseys they don't get practice jerseys or anything. So one student was wondering why there's such a large focus on basketball, and the other student was wondering if there's any favoritism towards basketball.
Oh, I don't think so. I suspect that, first of all, I guess I would point out that the Ontario University Athletics Association categorizes sports into different groups. Basketball and soccer, I think, are both in the category of what they call market-driven sports. And what they mean by that is sports that, may draw a reasonably large number of people to watch what's going on. Mm-hmm. That typically isn't true for, say cross-country running or something like that.
Yeah.
But, you can get big crowds out for hockey, for football, for basketball, and I think soccer's in that category. So, by definition, sports are, they're just different in terms of fan interest.
Yeah.
Basketball versus soccer, I suspect that a big part of the difference at this stage is we're not actually in OUA soccer yet.
Yeah.
What will happen next year, I don't make those decisions, but I suspect there's going to be, an increase in activity there and attention and so on when we're actually playing in OUA and we've got a schedule of games and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you for your response there.
You're welcome.
Yes.
All right. So our next question is from initials ST. And why aren't international students eligible for scholarships?
They are eligible for some scholarships. There are a number of scholarships at the university that are open to anybody, a small number. There are some that are specifically directed at international students, and those are, I think, reserved for students in the BA programs. Other than that, the typical entrance awards that we have for domestic students, those were in some respects, I think, in many cases, specific scholarships were created by donors, with specific rules that this would be for, Canadian students, or in some cases, students even from Northern Ontario.
Okay, so some of the scholarships are not eligible. International students are not eligible for them basically because of the certain rules of the certain scholarships.
People give
Yeah, I mean, it's a complicated question because there are all sorts of different kinds of scholarships, right? So, there's a difference between, a named scholarship that, Joe Smith decides, I want to have the Joe Smith scholarship and donate some money to the university. And usually what we do with those things is they're quite free to determine, where those go. They might say we want it to be for a student in the sociology program. If that's what they want to do, that's fine with us. It's their money. So most of the scholarships we currently have were set up before we even had international students on campus. So I think that would probably explain why most of them are focused on Canadian students. But as I say, it's not a simple question. There are some. We created scholarships to attract international students into our BA programs, and those are actually fairly generous because they're worth about what are those worth? I think it is close to $5,000 a year, and they're renewable.
Nice.
So we're doing our best to. The idea with those is, one thing to keep in mind is that ultimately a scholarship is meant to be an instrument to bring the kind of people that we want to the university.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some sort of, how shall I put it, some sort of reward that you get because you are a fine person and you earned this. It's more a question of, well, we have some money and we'd like to use it to bring people here who are going to help us build a better university. In any class that you ever teach, it's always great to have a mixture of students, but you're particularly appreciative, to have those who can really help everybody else learn better and faster.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have scholarships. With us and the international students, we created a whole category of them for students in the BA program because that's where we actually don't have that many international students. And when you think about it, the reason we want to have international students here is to kind of add to the, not just the cultural diversity, but the intellectual diversity.
Mm-hmm.
If they're all in, 3 or 4 programs, and yet in, political science and history and English and, so on, you don't have any international students, that's a shame.
Yeah.
It's probably in those areas where they have the most to add, right? To go back to your first question, in the mathematics program, I'll simplify here a little bit, but I don't expect there's really such a thing as, sort of Chinese perspective on multiplication as opposed to, a Saudi perspective on multiplication. It's all just multiplication.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if you're in a political science course, you better believe there's going to be a difference in how you see certain, elements of international relations, depending on whether you're a Canadian, a Saudi, or a Chinese national. So we would like to see more students from abroad in those programs, and consequently we've kind of concentrated our scholarship offerings in that area because that's where we'd like to really pull in more.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The key, the crux that I understood is that when scholarships are given, it's usually the people who are giving them that set the parameters for how they, where they go. And the school has set up, scholarships, I guess, to accommodate international students who might not be eligible for the other scholarships. for the more local
In some
scholarships.
cases, yeah. I mean, I don't want to suggest that all scholarships are set up by donors and so on. Some of them are set up by the university itself. So
Okay.
it's hard to give a simple answer to that question because
Yeah.
when you look at the list of scholarships that we have, they're quite different in terms of how they're funded, how they're set up,
Yeah.
what they're meant to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You are welcome.
All right. So, I think we got
La musique.
time. Yeah. Well, I don't know. We're at 10 minutes. Do you want to go? Do you want to say some more questions before we go to
Yeah.
break?
Okay. I could be. I'd like to do that.
We're just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
Okay, this question is about the bookstore downstairs. We were wondering if there's any way we could get it to be just more affordable for students. Obviously, it's a private outfit downstairs, and they can charge their own prices. But this student, for example, we're going to call him CS, but not Kalis Michael. That's the first thing that came to mind. My bad.
I didn't even think of that until you said that.
I just realized. He was paying $100 for a book that he saw online for $50 and less. And it's just there is a big difference, and I was wondering if there's any way the school can help accommodate students in that manner. Like, is there any way we can talk to the bookstore, or are those prices set? We should look elsewhere.
Oh, well, my impression is that certainly the manager of the bookstore is very open to talking to people about these matters. And I think there's even a kind of advisory committee for the bookstore. It includes some staff, some faculty. I think there's a student rep on that. That's a fairly common concern that you hear on university campuses, that books themselves, university textbooks are quite expensive wherever you buy them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's said that the bookstore prices seem higher and so on.
Yeah.
I think we're always very sensitive to ensure that nobody's gouging students. But one thing that you have to keep in mind is that in some ways a bookstore is a service,
Mm-hmm.
and that entails having people here because we think we need a bookstore where Professor X says, okay, I'm going to teach this course in Canadian government and politics and need the following 4 books, and someone's going to have to find them for me and ensure that they're here and that there's one for every student and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those are all services. It's a service to the professor, it's a service to the students, and so on. So, you've got people downstairs, they have to pay for space, they have to pay for salaries and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And, it's like any other kind of business. They have to cover their costs and make a little bit of money to keep the thing open. So we monitor those things. I know you can always go online and say, oh, well, here's this textbook that costs $92 in the bookstore, but I see that, you can get it on sale at Amazon for, $72 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd have to ask yourself, well, would we really want to do without a bookstore and just have everything come from Amazon?
No.
I think that would probably not be a very healthy situation.
sure.
And you'd find, some stuff all of a sudden is cheaper, and then you'd also find a lot of other stuff, we can't get it, or
Cause a lot of other issues.
Yeah, and I know Coralie downstairs. I mean, you hear all the time from people that she's great about. Okay, so, gee, we got more students than we realized, and what are we going to do? And she works very hard to get books in on short notice and things like that. So. It's a service for which you're always going to, pay that extra amount to cover the cost of the service. My sense of it is that it's not out of line here. You'd also have to consider, I suppose, that it's a fairly small bookstore.
Yeah.
And so, any kind of business, the bigger it is, the cheaper it is to run things.
Okay.
So, the amount that you have to pay to have that service here is probably also a little higher than it would be to have it at York.
Mm-hmm.
Where I've never been to the York University bookstore, but I imagine it's kind of like a Walmart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ours is a friendly little operation and probably not as efficient to run in some respects.
I agree. I'm actually going to ask you another question. The student who wrote that question to me actually had a paragraph.
Yeah.
And I'm just, some of the points that you brought up just now, I'd like to
Yeah,
extrapolate
you
on them
pick up on that.
a little bit. We, I guess, as the students, we're also wondering that, would it be possible, because, okay, let me give you an example before I say this question.
Yep.
This year, this same student, he had to get a book from the bookstore, but it wasn't available till like 2 weeks after his course started, which caused him a lot of stress, and everybody in his class a lot of stress as well. And he was just wondering if it was possible to either release like the syllabuses or the books they need for that course, like much more in advance, so that they can get the courses before the course. I mean, they can get the books before the course actually starts to avoid all the extra stress of ordering books and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. That all makes sense in theory, and I think that is, in principle, how they try to operate things. You know, there's a date by which all the course syllabi are supposed to be, filed with the bookstore and so on. As you can imagine, they don't all come in on time, and you're running the bookstore, and it's inevitable that somebody. Sometimes we, for one reason or another, the instructor isn't hired until fairly late in the game. If it's a last-minute replacement, or we've added an extra class or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes people just get the book orders in late, and then Coralie has to really scramble to find what she can.
Yeah.
It's a tough business too. I'd encourage you to. Maybe we should bring her on the radio one day and chat with her about how a bookstore works. That'd be pretty interesting.
That would be kind of interesting.
But challenging. It's always important in life to kind of imagine yourself in the other person's shoes and try to think, oh, I wonder how all of that works. So here's her challenge. She'll have, let's say we got I'll use the political science example again. So we have a political science course, and somebody says, okay, so here are the 3 books I need to order for the students. Okay, how many students will be in the class? Well, we're not really sure right now. I'm guessing 20 students. She's thinking, okay, 20 students. Well, of the 20, how many are actually going to buy the book? How many might find a secondhand copy? How many are just going to share with a friend? If she buys all 20, and there are 20 students, but only 15 buy the book, she's stuck with 5 books.
Yeah.
And see, that's a loss for her.
Yeah.
So there's always that difficult guessing game, I think, if you're in that business. Well, how many should I order here? And, if you're good, you get it right so that everybody gets a book, and I don't have a whole bunch left over that will end up costing the operation money and adding to the cost of
other books
for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not an easy operation.
Wow, that's pretty.
My sense is she does, as I say, does a pretty good job of it, but
it's not easy.
Yeah, not easy. So, and the bottom line is, I think there's a kind of bookstore advisory committee or something that has. I am pretty sure there's a student on that, and I think she's always trying to get feedback from people in terms of what would you like and how can we improve.
Awesome. I had no idea it was such
That
a precarious
complicated,
balance in that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's changing all the time too. I don't know. Were you at that presentation the other day, the Ken Steele presentation?
Oh, I was looking from the window in the fishbowl.
In the fishbowl.
Yeah, I was actually inside.
You're checking out the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was interesting. I mean, he was giving us a kind of picture of where is university life going in the next 10 years. And one of the more interesting things that he was talking about was the evolution of textbooks. And he was quoting from the people who run Pearson, which is one of the biggest textbook publishers in the world. And they're saying the textbook as we know it is disappearing. In 2 years, we, Pearson, the biggest publisher in the world, we're not going to have any textbooks.
Oh, wow.
Paper textbooks, gone, done. We won't be doing it anymore. It'll all be electronic. And the technology, you guys would like this because you like the technology. The technology is really fascinating because what they're doing is they've got it now down to the level where they can give you a textbook. You do chapter 3 of whatever it is, Introduction to Psychology. At the end, they've got a test built in. So you read chapter 3, then you take your little test. Not for marks necessarily, but just to see did I understand the material. And then what it will do is it'll say, all right, Caleb, let's see. You got 14 out of 20. You seem to have a little bit of trouble with the following concepts. You need to go back to page 72, reread the section on this and this and this, and reread this. And then we'll give you another little test to see if you finally mastered that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an online book that is giving you a personal education.
That's amazing.
Right? And ensuring that you have learned everything in the chapter before you go on to the next one. So... Yeah, quite amazing stuff. So, I would think the business of running a bookstore, it's going to be changing very dramatically in the
That's
coming
cool.
years.
I
That's
do want
really
to say
cool.
something quickly with that, though.
Yeah.
I know a couple people who, if they were given the choice of a book and electronic copy,
Yeah.
if the electronic copy was a lot cheaper, they would still take the book. Some people just, they can't learn from electronic copy. I've tried and I can do it a little bit, but it's like having the book there in front of you, it's still like, so that kind of like, to me, 2 years, I don't know, that might be too soon almost. Even for me, like I'm all into technology.
You're
and all
off
that
the
thing,
young to
but
be an old fogey like me. I'm one of those
Well,
guys,
no,
and
but I'm
I
saying-
like paper books too. You know,
I know-
actually bought a Kindle last week.
Oh yeah?
Only because for traveling purposes and so on, it's a lot easier to have your. But I still haven't. I'm one of these guys. I have all sorts of books at home, and I love books.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. But my excuse is I'm old.
Well, hey.
God.
What's
Hey.
your excuse?
I personally like reading a lot on my phone, so I like the idea of getting electronic books.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just don't like
I know what you're
reading
saying. Though,
like,
sometimes you like to you highlight and you write in the margin and that kind of stuff.
thing is, I don't even do that.
You can't admit
I
that
just-
on radio, John.
Why?
I'm joking.
Why?
I'm joking.
Although I
Okay.
think that the electronic books you can highlight in them now.
Yeah, you can.
Right, so-
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that kinda takes out
interesting
time.
stuff.
I don't mean to go off on a tangent. here.
Well, it's my fault. I think I did that a long time ago.
Yeah.
I also heard that in the presentation he talked about how you wanted to he proposed changing class time to homework time, and then when you go home doing learning the subject, and then when you come back to class it's just the teacher working with you on your homework to make sure you understand.
Oh
the
yeah,
concept.
no, this is interesting. I mean, it's one of the sort of revolutionary changes, I think, in how education will work. He's sort of describing something that's being done in lots of places. I tried to implement that in one of the programs back at my previous university. Makes perfect sense. Here's the logic of it. Look, if what's happening in a class right now is Professor Myers comes in and he lecture, right? And you sit there and list down notes and all. To be in the classroom with him for that. Have a videotape of him. Wouldn't that be just as good? You know why? It's because if someone quite understand that, you can stop maybe a third time. I see what it is, right? And then you
Yeah.
go forward. So the studies show that students will actually digitized version of a lecture, right? That they can watch where they want and stop it, speed it up, slow it down, or whatever. So the theory then is, okay, if the classroom used to be this place where the professor comes in and talks and you listen, which is basically how universities have worked since the professor to come in and blah blah can listen to that on your or watch that on your device, right? What that does is it allows you to use the class time to do the real material that Myers was talking about in his lecture. Now let's see if you can actually do the important stuff, which is take those concepts and apply them to something. So you use the classroom. I guess in science you would call it like a lab, right? But think of the subject, whether it's political science or psychology or anything else. So the stuff that can be done at home more effectively, watching it on your device, do that at home, and then take advantage of the instructor's time so that you can do that really valuable interactive kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where you really nail down the learning because you're actually applying it. You have to use it, and that's the proof that you really know something, right? When you can use it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So that's the direction education is moving in. I think a part of his presentation was just to let people know this is what's happening, and that's why I think the whole presentation. I had seen it before. I know Ken Steele, and I thought, well, we need to bring that in and show everybody, this is some of what we're looking at down the road in the next 10 years. I found a lot of it was inspiring, and a lot of people said to me afterward, wow, that was really interesting, and I hope that will help us move forward.
Awesome. Thank you. I personally, that's how I'd like to learn, so I hope one day we can bring it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right.
Side tangent. Rabbit, we shot that.
No, that was good. That was good. All right, so we're at 25 minutes here. So, I guess we will have another part, or should we take a break?
Break.
Break? All
Wait. Let's just do a whole nother part. 'Cause I think we could break this up and let students just soak what we just said in,
Okay.
and then we'll do another segment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that means this is going to be one video, and we're going to have another part coming up. So make sure you check that out. We're going to have a lot more questions coming up. And, yeah, don't miss it.
Algoma, we're going to be talking about some great questions. We're going to be asking some questions about possible alterations. A student asked me about a swimming pool maybe for the GLC. So I think that might be cool. We're going to be talking about some fees. We're going to be talking about some transgender issues. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff.
A lot of different stuff, yeah.
You should definitely just tune in next episode. We're going to give you that real, that live, that great, that awesome. That was just a lot of adjectives. I don't know how to say it. Okay.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, Algoma. That's all the time we have for now, but we're going to have our next part. So catch us next time. I'm John.
And I'm Caleb Smichael.
And we will see you next time.
Stay true, Algoma, you.